Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled to have you here today because we are going to decode how the modern world is actually built. Seriously, just take a look around you right now. The device you're watching this on, the chair you're sitting in, the building you're inside, we're going to decode exactly how they got here. Specifically, we'll be focusing on the invisible rules that dictate where massive industries decide to set up shop. Because it is not random, I promise you. There's this fascinating hidden geography to where things are made. And by the time we wrap this up, you are going to look at every factory and industrial town in a completely new light.
All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We'll kick things off with the basics of manufacturing, then we'll dive into the location equation, and finally, we'll apply those rules to three giants: iron and steel, the cotton textile industry, and the sugar industry. Let's get into it. So, Section 1, the basics. What does it actually mean to make something? At its core, manufacturing is basically the art of translation. It's the transformation of natural materials into everyday utility. You're taking raw stuff drawn directly from nature and processing, assembling, or repairing it into something we actually use every single day. Think about it, like taking raw, rough timber and turning it into that perfectly smooth desk you might be working at right now. Now, we can slice and dice this massive sector in a few really distinct ways. First up, by raw materials. Is it an agro-based industry like sugar, mineral-based like cement, or forest-based like making matchsticks? Second, we look at ownership. Are we talking about a public sector plant run by the government, a massive private giant like Tata, a cooperative like Amul, or maybe a multinational company assembling luxury cars? And finally, we classify them by what they actually do, their function. Are they a basic industry making raw materials for other factories, a capital industry building huge heavy machines, or are they a consumer goods industry churning out everyday stuff like your toothpaste and soap? It's a complex web, for sure, but it is highly, highly organized.
Moving right along to Section 2, the location equation. This is that invisible tug-of-war that decides exactly where factories live.
Think of these factors as literally opposing magnets constantly pulling at a factory. On one side, you have geographical factors. These are the physical magnets, right? Things like proximity to raw materials, access to a huge labor pool, nearby power sources, and vital transport links like rivers or major highways. But they are constantly battling against non-geographical factors. A factory also needs massive influxes of capital, reliable banking facilities to handle millions of rupees daily, and it has to navigate government policies that might be trying to, say, prevent pollution from clustering in big cities. It's a constant balancing act.
Okay, so here is the golden rule of industrial geography, the weight-losing rule. If the raw material loses weight during processing, like sugarcane being crushed into juice or copper being smelted, that factory absolutely must be built right next to the source. Think about it. If you transport super heavy raw materials hundreds of miles just to throw half that weight in the trash during processing, you are going to go bankrupt on transport costs alone. It's just a geographical given. But hey, human behavior isn't always perfectly logical, right? Which brings us to this incredibly fascinating concept called industrial inertia. Sometimes a factory stays put simply because it's always been there. Even if the original geographic advantage, maybe a local coal mine that dried up 20 years ago, is completely gone, the industry just tends to stick around and grow in its original spot. You've got the skilled workforce already living there, the roads are built, the momentum is there. That inertia can be powerful enough to completely defy the standard location equation. All right, Section 3, let's look at how this plays out in the real world with a classic weight-losing giant, the iron and steel industry.
Iron and steel? That is the textbook definition of a pure weight-losing industry, which means its geographic magnet is tied entirely to the Earth. It cannot rely on those non-geographical magnets we talked about earlier. It is absolutely chained to its raw materials.
And here's why. Making steel requires assembling a massive, massive array of incredibly heavy stuff. We're talking iron ore, coking coal, limestone, dolomite, manganese, fireclay. Because it takes tons of these raw, heavy earth materials to produce just a fraction of finished steel, moving these inputs over long distances before you process them, financially impossible. No way around it. And because of that immense weight factor, India's steel plants are literally geographically locked into this specific crescent-shaped region. It stretches right across parts of Chhattisgarh, northern Odisha, Jharkhand, and western West Bengal. And the reason is simple.
This specific pocket of land is extremely rich in high-grade iron ore, good quality cooking coal, and all those other supplementing materials we just listed. The geography dictates the industry.
Let's pivot to Section 4, the cotton textile industry. This one is market-driven and widely dispersed.
So, unlike steel, the cotton textile industry is explicitly not a weight-losing industry. The finished yarn and cloth weigh pretty much the exact same as the raw cotton used to make it. And that single, simple fact fundamentally rewrites its entire location equation. It's a total game changer. Because it doesn't lose weight, these factories aren't chained to the cotton fields. Instead, they are pulled by totally different magnets. Their location is determined way more by the power needed to drive those massive looms, access to a huge labor supply, capital, and crucially, proximity to the market. They want to be right up close to the consumer because the market for clothes and textiles is incredibly fast-moving.
And this market-driven flexibility, it allows the cotton industry to pop up in almost every single state across India. It's super dispersed, but Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu definitely lead the pack. Tamil Nadu is actually really interesting here because it hosts the highest number of mills in the entire country, primarily specializing in producing yarn. Honestly, there's a really good chance the yarn in the clothes you're wearing right now came from one of those exact mills.
But listen, it's not all smooth sailing. This is an industry under severe pressure. Cotton mills are constantly battling a whole list of headaches. Scarcity of raw materials, erratic power supplies that just shut those big looms down completely. You've got low labor productivity, strikes, and really obsolete machinery in a lot of places. Throw in some fierce competition both at home and globally, and you end up with a high number of what are called sick mills, factories suffering from a chronic lack of finance.
Okay, Section 5, the sugar industry. This one is a literal race against time and weight. Just to wrap our heads around the sheer scale here, India proudly holds the absolute #1 spot. It is the largest producer of both sugarcane and cane sugar in the entire world. That is massive. But sugar is a fiercely weight-losing crop, and it comes with this huge added complication: time. Once you cut that heavy sugarcane from the field, it starts losing its sucrose content incredibly fast. The clock is literally ticking. You can't just throw it on a train and process it a week later. The factory absolutely has to be located practically next door to the farm to ensure rapid processing. Because of this strict need to process it right away, sugar mills are forced to cluster in prime agricultural belts. Maharashtra leads the nation, churning out over a third of the country's total sugar. Uttar Pradesh is right behind as the second largest, specifically concentrated in the Ganga-Yamuna Doab and the Terai region. And you'll also see heavy clustering down south in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. Bottom line, where the cane grows, the mill must follow.
So what about the future of manufacturing? Are we fundamentally changing the location equation?
Tucked into the industrial classifications is this really fascinating category called knowledge-based industries. Think about the massive software sector. These guys aren't driven by heavy iron ore or tons of raw cotton. They rely purely on high-tech expertise, specialized engineering, and rapid growth. Their absolute most important raw material? It's human capital, brains over brawn. Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. For centuries, the map of human industry was drawn by the literal weight of coal, iron, and crops. But as these high-tech, knowledge-based industries totally dominate our future economy, how are the geographic rules of manufacturing going to completely rewrite themselves? When weight and transport and traditional raw materials simply don't matter anymore, and your most valuable raw material is human intellect, where do you build your factory? Something to think about the next time you look at the industrial world around you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.